All right, so let's get started. Thanks, Daniel, for hopping on today. So today we have a special guest, one-on-one career chat with Daniel Wu. He's a good friend of mine. We interned together at Riot Games, and yeah, we'll be diving into his experiences today. So, shout again. Make sure to please submit questions to Slido. The link will be in the chat right here, and then post it everywhere too. So I'm gonna quickly introduce Daniel. He is currently a software engineer at Riot Games. He's a U Ottawa. He was a U Ottawa undergrad in software engineering with co-op. Currently, he's pursuing a master's in computer science at GA Tech, and he interned at a lot of companies like Riot, Google, Shopify, Wealthsimple. Currently, he's based in LA on TN status, and he enjoys landscape photography. So before we dive into this, Daniel, is there anything you'd like to add to introduce yourself real quick, or shall we dive into company-specific questions?
No, that sounds good. Let's get straight into it.
All right, let's go. So how do you find the work-from-home culture from Shopify and Riot Games? So when we interned together, like it was remote, and I'm pretty sure Shopify is remote too. Could Nick speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the interesting things, especially from just starting from working from home, is that as like I guess more so as like an intern first. I've done some in person and some like sort of remote, and I think the one of the biggest things about working from home from these places is that it's very flexible in the sense where you can sort of find your hours, especially since I know when I was at least in East Coast, but campus and stuff, at least for Riot Games, would be in PST. So I'd actually work from like 12 to 8. So that's some of the stuff. But in general, the work from home stuff was nice. If I think one thing I tried to do to increase the transparency was that I sort of kept a document of things that I did each day, and I would use that sort of like as a reference when I would have my one-on-one with my manager. And this is mostly because being remote, you wouldn't really have that interactions physically. So being able to keep that visibility there and sort of let your manager know like what you're up to is super helpful and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think you answered the follow-up question directly too. Basically, making sure your manager and teammates are in the loop, keeping a document to, record your day-to-day progress and incrementally document everything. So yeah, I guess we can jump into the Google question now. So, Google has been, a lot of people's dream company. So what are some tips about working at Google that folks should know?
Yeah, no, sure. So I entered there as like a technical solutions consultant. But honestly, like when I was entering there are going to be people from literally like around the world. I personally remember learning so much about the different school systems. And it really kind of sort of like opened my eyes to, like how, people grew up in different areas and stuff like that. Right. So, and then also like when you would meet people, like I remember one person from Thailand was telling me about how like like their journey from how they were a student and then also like landed the internship, right? So it was very interesting and stuff like that. And sort of like looking back, I sort of wish I networked a bit more and like built some longer lasting friendships. To be honest, I don't think I did that too carefully. And then also Google is like a pretty big company, right? And so one of the things I did was to schedule time to attend like weekly coffee chats. And because like they're with sort of like random people from Google, you'll meet a lot of different people that are, engineers, designers, product managers from different like verticals. And like really also like lets you know like beyond engineering, like what else, Google is there for, right? Because it's not just engineering. There's other things that are like top notch as well. So really, if you ever get a chance to work at Google, like really just utilize that network. That's the number one thing.
Awesome. Yeah, great advice. And I guess jumping into the next company now, like what kind of work did you do at Wealthsimple?
Yeah. Wealthsimple, or at least Wealthsimple, for those that don't know, it's sort of similar to like Robinhood in the States, but it's like an investing app. But I worked on the book of record right team, and the main goal of that team was to ensure that at the end of the day, the credit and the debits equal out. So anything, any transactions make sense. We just want to make sure, like everything balances out, right? We're not losing money. So what I did there was I added on, worked on adding a new transaction type called like write-offs. Um, this is mostly for like finance operations, but I also built like a custom tool for them to like bulk upload a bunch of line items for these write-offs, and this would sort of recapture a bunch of lost monies that were considered delinquent. So, for example, if there was an account where that went into negative balance, for example, and they added money, we would be able to, and if they owed us or owed Wealthsimple money, we'd be able to recapture that money. So it's not like on our balance sheet as a deficit.
Nice, nice. Let's switch over to the next slide. So next one is the topic is going to be about your takeaways from these experiences. So what are some learnings that you would like to share from these experiences, like from your internships? Maybe you could speak a little bit about your full-time role at Riot too.
Yeah. So like overall, like after, during my schooling time, and doing all these internships, obviously this, like when I was doing my first one, I didn't really know quite exactly, what to do, but I would say like, near the end of, like where I was about to graduate, um, I definitely think you should be as transparent as you can, with your manager, and sort of set these expectations early on. For example, like what's your goal? Like, do you want a return offer? Do you want to come back as an intern next semester if you're not graduating? Those type of questions. And usually like by the 25% mark of like my internship, so let's say if it was a 4 month, by end of first month, I would like outline what I'd like to achieve and what steps that I would sort of take to reach that goal. And you want to drive that alignment with your manager so these expectations are set. And I will say like some managers are good about this. If they are, then they're probably a pretty good manager because I think one of the main goals of a manager is to help with your career growth, right? And if they aren't, then you might have to do a bit of like walking and hinting, to sort of get this done. Or if worst case, you can always talk to the skip manager, which is the manager's manager, to sort of make sure these expectations are set. Um, and sort of this was like sort of what I noticed was like the best way for me to sort of secure like for example like back to back internships, and stuff like that, and also eventually the return offer at some places, right?
Yeah.
And then one other benefit about this is if you do like back to back at the same company, like you can focus more on school and other things, and you wouldn't have to go through like application, studying, and interviewing. Because I remember like every season you always have to do, keep your interviewing skills, top notch. But if you do this back to back, then you can sort of focus on school and other priorities as well.
Yeah. All right. And because you have worked at a variety of large tech companies, like what do you enjoy most? And then we can also say like the opposite question, what are things you wish could be improved?
Yeah. So I think for like big companies in general, or big tech in this case, I think the sheer size, where number of employees guarantees diversity in many ways. For example, there's lots of different clubs to socialize with and sort of find like where you want to fit in. But also, what's pretty important is that there's also lots of different experts that you can talk to, right? As an example, like if you're at a smaller company, if you want to learn a very certain technology, it's probably a lot harder to find someone that's going to be good at it. But if you're at a bigger company, I'm pretty sure like at Google, for example, there's going to be one expert at least, to help you out and to sort of mentor and grow where you want to be. And then I think the second question, like what can be sort of improved at it. I think one downside is like where as companies get bigger and bigger, what I noticed is that the command chain like gets bigger as well, right? And so like I've been like from small companies to like medium size to large size, and I always noticed like the gap between IC or like individual contributor towards like the CEO, like it just gets bigger and bigger. And so if you want to escalate things, it's much harder to get your opinion heard. Whereas like in smaller places, like sometimes the CEO could just be walking by and he's like, "Hey, what's up? Like, I think XYZ and stuff like that. So that's one example. Not sure if it's like an improvement to big tech, but it's definitely a con about working at big tech.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, for sure. Like getting your voice heard is like much harder in big tech. And then advice and breaking in. So what advice would you give to new grads aiming for software engineering roles or breaking into the industry? And then follow up would be, how can they make their application stand out in such a competitive job market?
Yeah, so this might sound like pretty generic, but honestly, I definitely feel like you just have to be sort of ready when you apply. Like I don't think you can sort of control like when you get an interview, but I do feel like you can control like the preparation and the effort it takes to sort of get yourself there, right? Um, and the way I like to sort of envision this is like if you feel like you're ready, as in let's say like you've studied well, and then you receive the interview invite. I guarantee like you'll be feeling much more confident to succeed, and that really pays out when that does happen. Compared to if you're, let's say you haven't like studied yet and then you got an interview, then you're like, oh shoot, like in two weeks I gotta like brush up and stuff like that. And I feel like it definitely feels a lot more rushed. So yeah, I would say like definitely get ready first, and then maybe send out those applications and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you have any like tips for doing that? I guess that's a third follow-up question. Like besides like sending it out, getting ready, like what are maybe some more targeted approaches in your opinion?
Yeah, so like I think one thing that I would do is like at least for my school, I'd noticed like like when the internship season starts, usually like apply like July, August. I don't know if things change now, but if that was the case, then I would like start studying in like June, for example, and brush things up, and then that way when I send my application, like sure sometimes like they maybe they'll get back in like October, for example, but there are like some companies will start sending out like always like sorry, online assessments maybe like 2 weeks after you apply, right? And for those ones, like you're like, okay, I've been studying for a while, like a while now, so let's just do it. And then the sooner you do it, you usually like have a better chance because like recruiters will see like you're like sort of like first in the pipeline or stuff like that, so higher chance as well.
Yeah, applying early is like super important. All right. Follow-up questions. So I guess this would be like, how do you think the competitive landscape has changed for internships and new grads since your graduation, if it has changed at all? And then we're gonna narrow it down the focus even more to like maybe specifically game companies. How would you get into game companies? Because those are even more competitive as we have more interest in the gaming industry.
Yeah, for sure. So I can't really speak much about internships since I sort of like graduated already, but at least from like what I've seen from like the cohort sizes or like the number of interns that I see like I guess on campus, like it definitely is like a lot smaller. So there are fewer spots, and I'm guessing there's probably more applicants. So um it's definitely probably like more competitive, but I can say it's like from when I started school and then when I ended, I've definitely noticed like the questions started to increase in difficulty, especially since there's like the whole tech space has been growing, and as well. So yeah, and then I guess for tips to into breaking the game industry, honestly, like just apply. Like when I was applying for Riot Games, like I didn't even know I was going to be in the game industry. I did play games and I did know like about Riot Games, right? So honestly, like I just applied, and I didn't really expect much. And then going back to the previous questions, like I was like I studied before, and then I got a online assessment, did that, and then moved pretty fast along the line. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And then networking. So how important has networking and mentorship been in your career? And can you share
Mhm.
any tips for building connections?
Cool. Let's see. For mentorship, I unfortunately I might not have any good tips for that, just because I personally haven't had like a close mentorship that like has been with me for my career, other than like those short internship ones where you're like assigned a mentor, but I didn't really find like too much value out of those. But networking has been super helpful within my career. Like being, let's just say like even in work, for example, being able to know like touch points across multiple different teams like gives you like a better insight to, you know, like the verticals products, like, you know, what they do, and also how like your product might interact with them. And then the latency like between asking a question and getting a response is like so much faster, right? So like my coworkers, if they don't network or know people from different teams, you know, they have to like ask, and they're like, oh, talk to this person, and then the next person's like, oh, talk to this person. Whereas if you just know who to talk to, it's like you just ask and you get a response. It's much faster. And then outside of like the workspace and in general life, networking really exposes you to like a lot of different opportunities, with some really being like life changing, right? And for myself, like to be honest, I don't think I would have been in tech if this random person I met at a summer camp back in high school didn't tell me about hackathons, right? Like that's how I was exposed. Literally, I was just in a summer camp, and the guy was like, "Hey, you should do a hackathon." And I'm like, I don't know, and he really pushed me to do it, and I really like tech, and then now I'm here. So that's an example. And then even this opportunity to speak with y'all, you know, I met Ben through, you know, interning together at Riot Games, and we kept in touch. And you know, he asked if I could speak here, and now I'm here. So that's an opportunity that I was able to be there. Right? If I didn't network with Ben and get to know him, then I don't think I would have had this opportunity to talk.
So I know Riot Games has a still like a pretty strong coffee chat culture. So for companies that don't really have this, you know, type of coffee chat culture, like do you have any tips for, you know, reaching out or building these connections? So just a kind of still like hitting on the follow-up question.
Yeah, no, I think so if you're an intern, right, or if you're doing an internship, definitely get to know the other interns, right? Like they're going to be on different teams as well. You know, get, you know, learn about them, learn about their team, see how things are different, right? Because maybe you're missing out on something, or stuff like that, right? And then in general, if you, let's say it's hard to put yourself out there, like once you're full time and you know want to network organically. But one of the things that I like to do is sort of like join little like I wouldn't say like clubs, but as an example, like right now, I recently picked up like basketball, and I've been playing with a bunch of folks. And you know, I've been meeting people across different teams. And one of them actually like someone would work with, so that was like kind of funny. Like one of my projects was like, oh, like, hey, I play basketball with you. That's kind of funny. And then like it was really strange. I think one of them was like one of the leads for like Wild Rift and stuff. And I was like, wow, like this like someone up in the command chain is playing basketball with an IC. Like that's pretty amazing. But like I wouldn't have known about that if I didn't, you know, put myself out there to play basketball. So it doesn't really always have to be tech, right? Like you can just join the clubs that are on campus, or figure out like things are there. Yeah.
Yeah, huge agree. Putting yourself out there, making sure, you know, you're open for the connection is like huge. And then I have seen that you recently got promoted from, you know,
Thank
like
you.
associate suite to normal software engineer. So a truly core engineer now at Riot. So can you share with like any new grads how they can grow to that next level and be able to, you know, get promoted fast, or, you know, do their career progression?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think like when I joined, same like technique with like being an intern and stuff like that. Like I brought up like how I could reach the next level pretty early on. Um, and really outlined like and said like, hey, you know, like I don't think the next level is like that far away. It's like I think I'd like to try to reach this by, let's say, like the end of year and stuff like that. And then we outline steps and stuff, right? And I will say though, I think companies have this different, but usually there's like a mid-year review cycle and an end of year review cycle. So I think the ideally like the best time to join is in the beginning of the year, since you'll have much more data and metrics to sort of back up like your promotion. For example, like I joined in April, and it wasn't until like October where I had to like write your end of year review. Um, So I had like from April to October to really justify my case, and then you don't learn until like, let's say like the next like March whether you've got it or not. So for example, if I joined in like July or August, then I would, have much less data and would need more time to prove your competency. And then the best way to really go about this is every company will have like a pretty outlined job level like competency chart. So they'll be like, okay, level 1, this is what expectations are, right? Level 2, these are what expectations are. And really it's just a matrix, and you can compare them side by side, right? And say like, hey, like I think I'm meeting some of these at level 2, maybe some of these at level 1. And then talk to your manager and be like, hey, like how could I elevate myself from, level 1 to level 2, for example, right? Like, is there anything you notice that I'm missing? What opportunities can I get to really push myself to be there, right? And those, if you ask those questions and really set the expectations, then I think you will have a better chance at getting the promotion.
Yeah, great advice. And then it looks like we have a little bit of time for extras before we dive into Q&A segments. So I guess, yeah, these are just quick, short ones that we can just fire off. So the first one is, how do you maintain a work-life balance? So I believe Riot Games is in person now, or is it hybrid? So you can, I guess.
It's hybrid. So I think, or I'd say it's still remote first, but I think I go in like 3 days a week, sort of.
Mm-hmm. I see. And then like, can you like, I guess like walk us through about like your work-life balance? Like what's like a typical day at Riot like?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. So like at least for my days when I come into office, I'll come in and grab breakfast first, for example, and then my stand-up's at like 10, so I have like quite a bit of time to like catch up on I like to do like not like heavy like brain load tasks like coding. I would mostly just do like comms related stuff, get project updates, fix up some docs that I have, and also maybe catch up on some emails and stuff like that, see what's going on. And then after stand up, I'll basically say what I did yesterday and then what I'm going to do today, and then I'll focus on that. And then I think besides the work day of like doing that stuff, I usually get off around like 6, for example, and then grab dinner. Oh, and then I also play basketball as my exercise as well. So I get home around like 7:38, and then from there I just relax, and I try not to go back on the computer at least. There are some times where I do my side projects, but most of the time, like I'm pretty, like if I've been coding for 6-7 hours, I most likely don't want to code afterwards. And then so that's sort of my day-to-day life. I guess for the question itself, like maintaining a work-life balance, I think for this, it definitely for every person it probably works differently. But for me personally, I find with like my schedule, I definitely work better with like high bursts of productivity. So for example, if we have a new project, I like to focus on that for like, let's say like in a quarter, I'll like really focus for like 2.5 months, and then once I'm done, I like to take like a good break and tone things down, right? Whether that be vacation or just doing some lower priority work or tech debt, right? So that's usually how I usually go about my day and stuff.
Oh, nice. So like, do you feel like, I guess at Riot, like it's pretty chill then? Like it sounds like, or do you have like, crunch weeks, they would call it in the game industry, for your team as well?
Yeah. I think that's definitely one of the things I noticed with I guess more of the like gaming industries is like there are like certain hard deadlines that you have to reach. For example, we have a fighting game that's going to be coming out, right? And it's not like you can just push out the date, right? The fighting game has to come out. So there are times where you really just gotta like work a bit harder, I guess. But it's not like they'll work you to death, right? It's they understand like, hey, like we're sorry, like you have to put extra time, but you'll get like rest afterwards. So maybe a longer break and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's pretty fair and stuff. So
Nice. And then diving into more technical challenges, like what unique technical challenge do you face when building at Riot Games? Maybe you could talk about like if you are comfortable, like specific work you do at Riot, or specific team you're part of.
yeah, technical challenges. I don't think. Well, I think probably probably the hardest thing would be that at least my core products. I work on Riot Client, which is like the big sort of game launcher. But that product has sort of lived for quite a while. But our oldest member is only like was actually like one of the early interns, and so I think all of the like more senior members have like drifted off to different teams, right? So sometimes it's kind of hard to get the context and stuff like that. But at first I thought it was like a my team thing, but I think I've come to realize that in general in tech, like it's a revolving door, right? There's people that join, people that leave, people that hop around, and I think sort of sustaining a better culture in the long term is where the value is really found, right? For example, like after you're done a project, do you document things? Do you leave things so that future engineers can know about and understand the context, sort of like passing the torch, right? And so I think would say building a great culture, a great team culture is definitely one of the more challenging parts.
Yeah. And do you have any, maybe approaches that you think would be great for helping you build that culture? Having a documentation first culture, making sure, like quality, the bar for quality is set, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like what I've noticed is like people are introduce new systems and stuff like that, and they go like, oh, like let's do this from now on, and then a month from now, like everyone stops doing it, right? I think in general, like it's all about sort of like refining what you have. So no system is perfect when you first implement it. If you really want to drive change, you have to be the driving force up until like it becomes like what's that word? Like a routine, right? And just like any habit, right? You can say, I want to start going to the gym. If there's a point I feel like where you've done it enough, where it's like it's drilled into your system, and it's like almost like a natural thing. Whereas like, so I just in general, like I feel like the first couple of months are going to be the hardest, but after you've done those, like it'll be much better.
Okay, cool. And then I guess we'll skip the next question and we'll just go to the last one, to a more fun one before our Q&A. So what emerging technologies or trends in the gaming industry are you most excited about, and why?
Well, we can start off with emerging technologies. Personally, I've been finding, at least for side projects, there is some very interesting products that are coming out. For example, like Supabase. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I haven't.
But even like you haven't. But it's like I would say like, I guess the best way to put it is like back when I used to do my side projects, I'd always have to be like, okay, like I need to make like a login system. I got to make auth and everything. But like these days, like there's a lot of cool tools that are out there that sort of like streamline the process and make developing a lot easier. So like developer experience, right? So instead of like, let's say if I had like a cool startup idea, instead of like spending a whole month building out like figuring out like which database to use and like how to set up my user auth table, like It's really just you click a button and it's set up, and you can really focus on building the actual product, if that makes sense. So that's one thing. And then other thing I found really cool is there's a new UI system called like Shad CN. I don't know if like
Yeah.
people have heard of it, but it's really interesting because before there'd be all these UI packages, and you'd like the actual component itself would be in the registry, but now you actually sort of like own the code where if you were to install like a button component, it would actually spit out a file. So it's interesting how like before there would be one source of truth, and now it's sort of bringing it back to more control. Um, so those are like sort of the two things, at least in the web space, that I've been pretty interested about. In the gaming one, I will say I've been slacking. Haven't been playing too many games. So I haven't really heard much of the new updates, at least for technologies or trends in there. So don't think I can answer that one.
Yeah, no problem. So, what's your favorite Riot game? Since we're on the topic.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'd say it would have to be Team Fight Tactics, like the little, or it's called TFT. But I used to play a lot of League, but now I'm old, I'm rusty. My mechanics aren't there anymore, so I take it easy, laid back, and just play TFT now. So
Awesome. Thanks so much, Daniel, for answering our curated segment of this Q&A. So, Eric, I'll pass it over to Eric now, who will be running the audience Q&A with the Slido. So, yeah, I'll let Eric take it away.
Awesome.
Shift over. Oops. Let me shift over to the Slido link here. All right.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the insights there. I think most of our audience is kind of like early career internships and sort of new grad seeking. So I think your insights are extremely useful for our folks. Getting on with our Q&A, we do have quite a few questions. I don't know if we'll get to all of them. What we did for the last event is we posted a Google Doc after for sort of the unanswered stuff. We can't guarantee that they'll all get answered, but at least myself and others will attempt to get to at least some of them. And maybe if Daniel has time as well, he may also be able to do so as well. Yeah, let's go into the questions. The first question is, what kind of projects should I build to stand out when applying for Riot Games / FANG tier companies? Additionally, what skills should I focus on learning?
cool. Let's see. I think for projects and stuff, there are a lot of different things that you can sort of do, different stacks that you can probably like go for and stuff like that. I think the most common one would be like a web stack that you can probably play with. Probably one of the more easier ones to get into. But I don't think there's actually like a specific project that you would need to do to sort of like get yourself noticed by like Riot Games or FANG, any of the FANG companies. I think in general, finding a project that you're sort of like somewhat passionate about really helps. I think I'd rather have like one good project than like 10 projects that like are like sort of unfinished, if that makes sense. And I think the one thing you want to focus on is really like the software engineering skills if you want to go for like the technical route. And what I mean by that is that you want to be going to a point where, or like you want to be going deep enough where like you're sort of asking, or you're really thinking about sort of like core design principles and stuff like that. Thinking about things of like, oh, like how would X scale? And if you're working with a team, even finding like better systems to use in terms of communicating with each other, right? PR reviews. I think one of the most common things that I've noticed, where if people only focus on like algorithms, for example, is that they'll be able to solve like algorithms, but when you work with a team, it's much more different, right? It's not just technical skills. There are people skills involved too, right? You will have to work with other engineers, product designers, product managers, designers, and so forth, right? And so I don't know if all schools do this, but at my school, like we had what's called like a capstone project, which is like in your final year, you and like four people, like sort of like build a project together. And one of the things about this is like it sort of like really teaches you how to really do these cross collaboration things, right? Like, cool, like we have a sprint board. Like, do we want to do it every 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Like, what do we want to commit this time? Like, what do we want our like final product to look like? Like, how much time do we want to invest in these type of things and stuff like that, right? And so going back to the original question of like what kind of projects, I won't say um, like a space, but in terms of like the project length, I feel like find a project that that you're passionate about, that you want to work somewhat long term, and then also try doing a project with maybe some friends or some folks that you meet, maybe from this Discord, and stuff like that, right? Like try that out, and also like sort of bounce ideas off each other and learn what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, right? And for example, when I did a team project, I'd always want to be doing like, for example, like the front end stuff, and I'd be like, huh, that's not good. Like I always pick up the front end stuff. Like how come I don't do any of the back end stuff? And that's when I noticed like, hey, like I'm missing this skill. Like I need to see what's up. And then I would ask my friend like, hey, like why, like how does this work? How does X, Y, Z? And that's you get to learn stuff, right? So it's like a Venn diagram. Like things, your peers will know things, but what can you share? What can you learn off of each other, right? So maybe I'm diverging too far from from the original question, but um, those are like the sort of projects that I would do. So to recap, one that's sort of team based, and then one on your own.
Awesome. Yeah, really great insights there. I will say the part about especially collaboration. I think early in your career, I would even say, I would even dare say that like being able to work effectively within a team is perhaps even more important than your technical skills, at least early in your career. So yeah, thank you very much for that response. Uh, yeah, the next question is kind of similar to one you've already answered, but maybe if you have anything you'd like to reiterate on the topic of networking. This tends to be a really good theme actually on our server recently because, well, I think people are realizing how important networking is, especially compared with, especially now when the market isn't as hot as it was even just a couple years ago. So the question here is, how do you like to approach networking when looking for jobs or co-ops?
Yeah, I think when looking for internships or even full-time jobs, um, I actually don't think the best way. I don't think the best way to do it is just like going like, hey, like, can you refer me X, Y, Z? Um, I like to lean back to my previous example where like you sort of want to have the like when you network, you really want to sort of like share your passion and skills and whatnot, and sort of have these opportunities come back to you, sometimes by chance, right? Like going back to this talk, for example, it's not like I went to Ben and said like, yo, like, can I talk today? It was the other way around, right? Where Ben asked me, and that was like, it's a really good opportunity and stuff like that. And I do feel like it's the same way to a degree, with like when looking for jobs, right? Where I think very very rarely if you ask, people will go like, yo, yeah, like I'll like like I'll refer you and stuff like that. Whereas majority of the time, like if let's say if I have a spot open on my team, I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna ask my like I know this. I'll be like, oh, this person's really good at XYZ. Like I'm gonna reach out and see. And that's what I mean by like sort of the networking is like you'll start to have more nodes to like be there and sort of be in the mind space as well. The other thing I can recommend for those that are still students is to sort of attend not just hackathons, but there are also some like tech not conventions, but like shoot, it's on the tip of my tongue. I used to go to one that was like in Montreal, but it would be like for like workshops and stuff like that. Sort of similar to like GitHub Universe, where like you sort of like have folks or like industry folks fly in and sort of talk about engineering problems. Like that's one way to sort of like really learn more and network as well. So that's something I would raise. And then also like if you're in school, like yeah, check out your local CS club, or even like I feel like everyone here is already doing a better job joining this Discord as well, right? Like you're able to sort of be in this network where other people are also looking for jobs, so you can really see like and learn from other people as well, right? And stuff like that. So I feel like you like everyone here is already like a step ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate that. I will say also on the note of Discord, all of the mods on our server, for example, I actually met on Discord. So that really does it is a thing to be able to like expand your network even online. So yeah, I guess next question. U of T CS versus U Ottawa CS for industry. I'm not sure what this question is asking exactly, but yeah, I mean, you went to U Ottawa, right? So I feel like I
Yeah,
know
no,
the
I
answer here.
no, I can answer this one. I'll say like straight up front. In terms of like pure education, I don't think U Ottawa was like or I mean I've never studied in any of the other Canadian universities, so I could be wrong about this, but I didn't find like U Ottawa's material to be as like crazy. So I thought it was definitely like on the like easier side. And at least like I had like high school friends I went to, for example, like Waterloo and stuff, and when we compared materials, I do think, for example, like Waterloo, or even U of T would go more into depth and stuff like that. But there are trade-offs too, right? Like at U Ottawa, like I noticed like I had a lot more free time to, for example, do my side projects, whereas my friends at Waterloo U of T, they would have less time to do those things and would have to study more and stuff, right? But I will say at the end of the day, a university name is just a university name. You don't have to go to U of T. You don't have to go to like Ottawa or even like Waterloo, for example. I've met a lot of talented engineers from other universities too. Some of them, they don't have to be prestigious as well. Like really just comes down to like how interested you really are, and just in general, like how much effort you put into this type of stuff. So
Awesome. Thank you for that. I guess the next question as well. How was the U Ottawa co-op portal? What percentage of internships did you land externally versus through the university?
yeah, like I've actually like reflected on this a lot. I'm talking to my friends about this as well. I think it's like definitely okay, or at least for the U Ottawa co-op portal. I don't think I've seen crazy companies like Apple as you would in Waterloo. Like I think all of this goes back to networking. Actually, like Waterloo has a much more massive network, and they're able to pull these big names to come to them. And but I'm still very grateful and thankful for U Ottawa's co-op portal. My first internship was from the co-op portal, but I would argue it was the most important one because like the first internship, any first thing is always the the hardest to do, right? Like getting your foot in the door is tough, right? But after you're in there, like you can start to work around. And so I only landed my first internship through the U Ottawa co-op portal. All the other jobs I found by myself. But one could argue if I didn't go through the U Ottawa co-op portal, I don't think I would have found my first job, right? And so like me and my friends, we used to meme and say like like we're like it's the co-op portal is useless and stuff like that. But when you look back, like all of our first jobs were from there, and without that, we wouldn't have gotten our other jobs. So I definitely think for your first job, you'll probably most likely use any of these portals, but for the second one and beyond, it's better to look for the other jobs as well.
Awesome. Very cool. I'm glad you're able to look back fondly on your co-op experiences. That's always good. I think we kind of answered this already. Do you think university reputation helps when applying for internships? Do you have anything to add to that? Otherwise, we can.
Yeah, I can add a small blurb on that. Short answer, like at the end of the day, it's just a name. It has a very, very slight advantage. And that's because if like, for example, if you're like a Waterloo grad and you're looking at resumes, or if you're doing interviews, oh, this person's from Waterloo, like I know what you've been through and stuff like that, then obviously, you're gonna get like bias and stuff like that. But that's the same for any other university as well. In the end, it's a very slight advantage if it's a famous name, easy to recognize, but it is not weighted to what I feel like most people believe it to be, where the name is everything. So it's very, 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 very small. But yeah.
Awesome. Very nice. Next question. How comfortable were you with LeetCode before you started searching for new grad roles? For example, were you able to easily solve a medium/hard in X minutes?
I would say I was pretty comfortable. I didn't really try to give myself like a time, like and solve in X minutes. I think for these LeetCode, for the new grad roles, doing like the most optimal way of doing this is really just going through, doing your research and seeing like what's, I guess the most, like, let's say if you want to go for FANG, what I remember what I used to do is I would literally just go on LeetCode, go to the actually interview questions and search for what people, like actual interview experience, like it would be like fresh, like 2 weeks ago, someone would be like, oh yeah, I got interviewed. Here are the sort of questions I got. And it's like, okay, like this is like real data and stuff like that. Just compile, like I would compile a list and then just, I think now these days, like I think LeetCode like auto creates a list and stuff like that. But I don't think you'd have to do like every single question. Do like the most frequent ones first that like are reoccurring, and then work your way from there.
Awesome. Yeah, really great advice about, especially about seeking those questions out that were asked recently for the company. I think that's a really, really good way to sort of prioritize your time. Next question. What aspects of your work and effort do you think made you stand out and got you accepted to the companies you worked at? Oh, I really like this question.
I think for these ones, what I noticed the most would be like, it wouldn't be the actual like technical rounds. It would be the rounds after, like the cultural and like hiring manager ones. I think it goes back to the same question where like not everything is all about LeetCode, right? You should at least try to do some mock interviews where you just talk about yourself, right? Like they're gonna ask you, what projects have you worked on? Like tell me about a time where, challenging time where you did X, Y, Z and stuff like that, right? I think those are one of the things. And then at least for like return offers and return internship ones, it's I would one thing I'd always like push myself to do would be to stand out in a way would be to like always do like the like let's say if there was like a demo day, for example, I would always sign up, right? Push myself to be on that list, to showcase what I did, right? It's good visibility. Also, going back, like it's somewhat networking, right? Like people will be like, "Hey, nice demo," and then you hover over their like profile, like, "Oh wow, like who's this head of XYZ?" And you chat with them, right? That's an example, right? And then it really just gets you out there and also makes you practice like how to engage and really like also sell a story.
Very cool. Yeah. I guess to the next question we go. Do you think recruiters like to see competitive programming in resumes? I mildly enjoy competitive programming, but don't enjoy projects too much.
Yeah, no, I think this is like competitive programming in resumes is nice to have. I would still recommend to maybe try to do a project, not because just to have it. It's more of just being able to like I said before, sort of understand like the product space, if that makes sense, where like you're trying to identify a problem and solve a problem, whereas um like competitive program is more of like more I would say like input output type of thing, right? Where there's like only one right answer and stuff like that. I feel like for the project ones, it gets you for like the sort of system design interviews as well, right? Where you can sort of plan things out from a more end-to-end view.
Awesome. This next one is interesting. Is CS dead in your opinion? Bit of a
No,
pessimistic question, but
no, I don't think it's that. I know there's like all those like I mean I still like keep track in the CS majors like subreddit, for example, and I think the times are definitely much tougher than before. But I don't think it's dead. There's still a need for CS. It like I think it'll bounce back up like long term. And in general, even if it did die, I'd still be interested in CS. So that's my take and stuff like that.
awesome. I will say CS is dead if you think it's dead. And most people I talk to in the industry would not say that it is. This is a question about the TN visa. Maybe we can skip this one just because it's a little bit technical. If folks want to ask about like TN stuff, feel free to use the server.
I can write it out in later on.
Okay,
If there's
awesome.
like a follow-up doc, I can add that in.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. This one we answered already, so I think we can skip this. Might be a silly question, but what do you usually network about?
Um, I'd say like 60% of the time it's about tech, and then 40% of the time it's really just more of just like learning about different things about I guess sort of life in general. I think it's always good to be curious and sort of learn different perspectives as well. I think there's a lot of value you can sort of get about it. And also like not every opportunity has to be like done through tech. For example, like one of my opportunities like really early on, like even before I got my first job, like I had a friend that was just like they had like a new what's it called? They had like they were selling like art or something, and they wanted me to do a website and stuff like that, right? So like that was like me very early on. Like I didn't really have a need to do this type of stuff, but like it's not like that person was in tech, right? I just learned about or like just networked, learned about like oh this person's trying to like start a new like art business or whatever, and they're like, hey, like I remember like you said you were in like studying CS, like do you know if you can make a website for stuff like, and they'll pay me and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, like I'm not really doing anything right now, like yeah sure, like I'd be down. So that's like stuff, for example. Like it doesn't always have to be about tech, really.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely sensing a theme with the networking questions. I will say, like, the way to network with people, the number of ways to network with people is like the number of ways you can get friendly with somebody, right? So it's kind of I can see why you might think it's a silly question, because yeah, it's not, there's not an exact answer. So this one is, can we run Valorant sometime? I really want a gun buddy. Of course, if you don't feel comfortable doing so, that's fine. They ask what your rank is on Valo.
Ooh, okay. I'm really really bad at Valorant. I can't aim for anything. But I can definitely I guess for this Discord, if you're not toxic, stuff like that, I can definitely help you out. I have a limited quantity, so I don't know if I can give everyone that asks. But maybe I can start a thread later and
Yeah.
just add your Riot ID. I will say for League, for example, though, I back in high school I did peak like around like diamondish, so that's where I was at. And it does help, like when I remember my very first interview. I remember the recruiter actually looked up my profile and was looking at my match history. And I remember like I had like a 6-7 game losing streak, and they were like, "Ooh, looks like it's not a good day for you," right? And stuff like that. But it's like it's nice. It's nice that they still search me up and stuff like that. So playing League did help me, at least for Riot Games.
Interesting. Well, that's very interesting that they actually looked you up. I would not have expected that. I think some folks might be a bit terrified by that prospect. But anyways, yeah, I think we're just about at time here. We don't want to keep Daniel too long. We have 19 questions left, so there's no way we'll get through all of these anyways. We'll do our best to try to answer at least some of them, sort of async afterwards. We do have like a discussion and feedback channel on the server where we'll probably post like a doc with some of the questions answered. We can't promise that we'll answer all of them, but at least someone will look at some of these. So thank you for the engagement on that. I'm going to pass it back to Ben to sort of close things off.
Yeah, all right, let's go to our last slide. So of course, thanks for coming on, Daniel. Really appreciate you accepting our invite and
no worries. Thanks for inviting me.
Your story, and I guess a lot of people will be super happy about the gun buddy stuff too. So if anyone is listening in and you're interested in that kind of stuff, then you should hop on Discord after when Daniel posts a thread. Another shout out to our moderators and helpful members for always being incredibly active in our core contributors to Career North, and then of course the community for being part of our community and being awesome. And then just a quick plug here before we end things. We do have a lot of upcoming events. So we have a one-on-one with a Meta software engineer on August 14th. We got our in-person meetup number 3 in Vancouver, August 25th. And then we have another SWE panel, August 29th. We also have resume reviews, which occur every Saturday with Aiden, but starting August 3rd. You can find all these events on our Discord events. And then we'll just plug our socials. We do have Instagram. It's a little bit, we just post all our advertisements there, but we do have it, so you can follow if you're interested. We have a new website and we have a cool LinkedIn. And yeah, that's everything. Thank you so much once again to Daniel for coming on, and for everyone that's here and tuning in.